Wait, which camera do I look at? That one? Oh. Hi. Am I on? Hi. I'm Jen. Blah, 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 blah. And this is my show. You guys all caught me doing this flower crown. I'm doing this flower crown not as something that I plan to do, but as a tactic to save these spider mums that fell off of their stems while I was processing flowers. Why did the flower mums fall off of their stems? Because they were all the way open, and I bought them anyway because I liked how pretty they looked. So I'm going to now make a small flower crown, which is great because it has a lot to do with what we will be talking about today. So what we're going to be talking about today is this article that I found on JSTOR. Thank you, Amy Campbell. Shout out to Amy Campbell for no reason particularly, especially for those narcos at Penn University watching. Just want to shout out Amy Campbell and tell you a little bit about this article that I wrote. So the article takes place in somewhere where people spend a lot of money to go to a university, but they are talking about nunneries. See, look at this little add thing to the flower crown. That's gonna look so beautiful. Anyway, so they're talking about nunneries in colonial Mexico City. Mexico City that is now taken over by that was previously where the Aztec culture was based and where colonial European Spaniards like Geraldo Cortez came in 1518, I believe, for the first time to, harass, kill, pillage. What else do the colonial Europeans do? Anyway, so they came over there with, their crosses and their God-fearing cannons, and basically destroyed what was then the Aztec culture very quickly. It is said that, if you hear it, like the interesting thing I find about this history is that if you hear it from the Spaniards, the Aztecs thought that, they say that the Aztecs thought that they were some kind of gods, when really in Mesoamerica, they knew exactly who they were, and they were bringing them gold in order to cure the people that came from their, the mercenaries that were on their ships. And they were bringing them gold because honestly, these people looked sick as fuck, right? So these sick fucks came from Cuba, originally from Italy, Spaniards. Like, I don't know how much you guys know about Mesoamerican culture, but particularly the guys who took over Mexico City took 6 ships from Cuba over to the coast of what is now Mexico, and was like, hey, this land, we're just gonna take it. And not necessarily on a mission from Spain. The guy, Cortez, the Spaniard Cortez, who was previously a part of a lordship in what was European Spain, was just like, you know what, I am a lord, but like I don't have any land where I'm at, and like I don't have like the money and like all of like the shit that like lords are supposed to have, quote unquote, because we were born into blood, and God says that lords should have basically whatever the fuck they want in the land. They didn't have any of that. This was probably in the 16th century, after a bunch of shit happened in like the 12th and the 13th century with the Medici family, all proving that, you know, having lords in control of shit wasn't really a good idea because all they cared about was themselves and quote unquote God, right? But they didn't really care about the people, and a lot of the people were uprising, literally yada yada. All the lords are upset, and now they are fucking coming over to the Indies, Cuba, Hispaniola, which was where Christopher Columbus was at for a while. And they were all like, you know what? We're just gonna be something over in this new world. If you wanna just take a look at that little thingy we have here. Right now I'm making like a flower crown. Bear with me while I make the flower crown and introduce to you where we're gonna be at with this show today, trying to make it as interesting as possible. So they were all like, yeah, we all know the colonial story. We all think they came to America, but no, they came to the Indies first. Obviously, they took over places like Hispaniola and Cuba. And by this point, people in Mesoamerica were starting to find out and didn't know what they wanted, right? So they were just giving them fucking gold because they were like, yeah, gold will make everyone on our ship better. Everyone on our ship is like sick right now, and if you give us gold, you know, we'll make things better. And over in Spain, in the Spanish Empire, they were getting 1/5 of everything merchants were taking from like the New World. So over in the Spaniards, they're like, oh, this shit is dope. We have all of this gold from this other country that we don't necessarily think is a country. We think it's kind of like Asia, but like whatever. We just got a bunch of gold from them and we're loving it. Yeah, let's send more ships. Let's send more mercenaries. Let's send more black people. Black people do everything for us. So you're like, wait, whoa. You're talking about the Spanish, the English. Now you're talking about black people. Actually, I'm talking about African people. A lot of people don't know this, but Africans were first brought over to Hispaniola because Christopher Columbus killed about 250,000 of that civilization. So they were like, we need more people to do our stuff. Where are we gonna get them from? Oh, we're gonna get them from Africa. So the reason why I'm telling you all of this, because I wanna paint a picture. I wanna paint a picture of a new world that has a bunch of different people all the way in the beginning at the 15th century to the 16th century. There were black people already from about 1516 in Hispaniola, brought over from Africa. These people then go over to Cuba where colonial rule comes and then like fucking snaps their magical colonizing destroyers of ships and God fingers and like turn them indigenous people all Christian and make them slaves. So while that is happening, the Mayans and the Aztecs are like, oh shit, all of these people are coming here. What the fuck are we gonna do? You know what we're gonna do? Not much, because they have cannons and guns and things that were things that they thought were like making things vanish, you know? Like, it's just like another completely blindsided, didn't know what they want, thought they wanted gold, kept on throwing gold from them, eventually took over. Now we're in 1724. 1724 in Mexico City. The Christie nunnery, where they have a bunch of nuns because nuns are like really important. Like, think about it. All of these people are coming and they're taking over new land, slaughtering millions of people in the idea of God, saying that God wants them to take this land, right? And they're doing it for the Spaniards in Europe. So they're like, all right, we're gonna take all this land And we're doing it for God. So of course we have to bring our crosses, we have to bring all of our cultures and these different things over, and we gotta make sure they're all Christian now. So all of these indigenous people who are just like living their lives and, you know, slaughtering people in their own right and creating slaves, actually it's very interesting because, side note, slavery is one of the reasons why the indigenous cultures became so easily taken over by the Europeans and the Spaniards. When a lot of slaves are passed around from Mayan tribes to the Aztec tribes, and they were really fucking tired of just being, you know, taken advantage of and going and being sold from men to men. Because I say men to men because particularly one slave was the person who knew Mayan, Spanish, and Aztec. And she was the reason, she was the interpreter, she was the person, this slave was the person who basically told Cortez where to go, who to talk to, and yeah, that actually ended up being the downfall of the Mayan culture. So yeah, slavery is bad for its owners too, guys. AKA. I don't know what I'm AKAing, but just in case you were wondering. And until it was bad for your mortal soul, under which, oh wow, all of this fell, sorry. So when you hook the flowers too hard to the flower, that is what happens. You're not supposed to hook them hard at all. But I'm actually really happy with this. And I think I'm gonna put it on top of Eli's head. Eli could just, or someone, in 1 second, just come and demonstrate. Now, why am I talking about colonial Mexico and also making flowers? Because the whole point the colonizers were trying to prove, besides money and gold and power, look at that. Wait, let me see. And you can see it from all sides, flowers. Okay, you're done. Let's go. Move it.
Should I
keep
take
going.
it?
No, keep going. It's yours forever. Keep it on your head. I think it's beautiful. Anyway, now we are going to make a floral staff. And the reason why we're making a floral staff, talking about nunneries and also talking about colonial Mexico, is because flowers were a really important part of civilizations and cultures to prove that they have wealth. Even now in our present culture and civilization, we have Kim Kardashian doing a huge beauty shoot with just flowers. And it makes you think of what? Heaven? Paradise? Yes, that's what it's supposed to make you think of. Things that make you think of heaven and paradise will bring you closer to God. And the closer you are to God, the more power and influence you have over your society, because that God is the person they use to mask their self-interest behind. So think about that throughout history whenever you're like reading something or wondering like, hey, why did these people come into power at this certain time in history? God. God is the reason every single time. No, money and power, money and power, money and power. It's not God. They weren't religious. They killed people. They took things. They took humans from one country to another in the name of God. These people were not godly. They were fucking animals. Anyway, God, 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 God. Nunneries. These nuns were people of high society. TBH. We like to think of the calling of being a nun. I know when I was a kid, I wanted to be a nun. I went to Catholic school when I was from kindergarten to about 5th grade. And I was like, yo, this is where it's at. you're just around women. You get to wear all black. Sorry, I was a Scorpio, so like I was into wearing all black from a very young age. What am I gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna start doing this floral staff. Anyway, and talking. Doing that and talking. Now, what I don't like to design on a messy table. I kind of like a clean table. I don't know why I just did all of that. I'm really nervous, and also I kind of hate when flowers break, so just like taking out all of my anger on these fallen petals. Okay, fallen petals, anger out. Now I have a clean table where I can see things. And you want to be able to see what you're doing. That's really important. Perspective is really important when we're talking about art, and also when we're talking about flowers, because flower design is an art. A lot of people see me doing it and they're just like, oh, you're having so much fun. I wish I had your job. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea what I'm doing. Don't you? Great. Anyway, so design. Flowers. Flower staff. Anyway, so the flower staff, I got this idea to make a flower staff, sword if you're nasty. Flower sword, from that article that I read about the Aztec women, or the indigenous women of Mexico City becoming nuns, and like how hard it was for them to become nuns because I need my knife. Sorry. I can't do anything without my knife. My knife. So the reason why flowers were so important, because they prove that you come from high-born society. Even back in the 16th century, they prove that you were able to afford them. See, I want this to, like when I have it like here, I want it to go up. So I'm going to kind of like put leaves right here to kind of hide the flower foam. And then I'm gonna create, when I'm cutting my leaves, since I'm just hiding the foam, I can kind of cut them in two. That'll save you a lot of money and time. When just like, I like to look at flowers in threes whenever I'm designing, so even when I'm picking out the frame, I start with like this sort of triangle. Like, it's a triangle here, it's a triangle here, right? Okay, cool. Let me just take this out, and then I'll keep that here. I'll put that in later. All right, so like I said, this is gonna go up here, so I'm just gonna have like leaves to hide it back. I'm not really gonna create a third dimensional perspective right here. I'm just gonna have like kind of flowers in here. I'm using flower foam on top of that. I know, kill me. I'm not protecting the planet. Anyway, back to Mexico City. All right, in Mexico City, 1724. If you want to be a nun, here are 7 things that you need, which I think were kind of ridiculous, and it only shows that, like, not only did you have to obey and follow and be chosen by God in order to have power, you also had to be of high society. So those who were of high society were considered to be closer to God. And this is even in the New Spain of 1724 in the Aztec culture. You had indigenous people who basically sold out like the Aztecs to like Cortez. You have the Mayans who and other tribal, because he had a lot of enemies, you know, they killed a lot of people on top of their steps, and they enslaved a lot of civilizations. So they had a lot of enemies. So once the colonial Spaniards came and was just like, you have enemies, let's work together, they were like, no, we'll kill you, fuck you, we hate you too. And then after a while, they were like, okay. So we have to become Christian, and then we'll get to keep all of our money, and we'll get to get rid of this guy. All right, let's do it. So once they like sold out their cultures, you had indigenous lords of high society within the like previous Mesoamerican, now New Spain culture, being like, hey, we want to be nuns too. We want to be closer to God. We are of high society. So these are like the 7 things in order to have that status. And in order to be a nun, you had to have noble status. So you had to have previously been someone who, you know, was probably a descendant of a tribe who sold out the colonial, who sold out, I forget his name, but it's pretty bomb. He's the last emperor of the Aztec nation. No, I'm sorry, I'm gonna forget. I'm not gonna say the right name, so I'm not gonna say it at all. Yeah, he was the last emperor, and all the people that sold him out got to live their Christian lives in New Spain. And so in order to get more say within their government, and there are things like, you know, in Italy they had their sangrias, where also they developed a lot of them like throughout different civilizations, and like, and in order to have influence, because the influence came from the church. I used to think that all nuns were just like ancient lesbians, but maybe they were people who wanted power. I don't know. I feel like I would have wanted to be a nun. Who do you want to take orders from? A physical man or a man up there? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I think there's a lot of appeal in being a nun. I'm gonna make it like this high. Okay, now that I know that I'm gonna do that, and I have this kind of leading me there, I'm going to actually use a flower. And the flower I'm gonna use the delphinium. I'm gonna use the delphinium because it's long, it's pretty, and I can have flowers up here and then create like a deeper look. So with this delphinium, I'm gonna put it like right in the center, because honestly, I don't want to use a lot of flowers right now because I have to sell them later. But flowers I am gonna use, like, kind of like angle this out too, so they stay in the flower foam. I don't really know how this looks, but I'm just gonna keep going. Ba-boom. Anyway, so you have all of these different nuns, right? What the fuck does this have to do with flowers? Okay, so throughout different societies, they used flowers in order to prove their high-born, expensive lifestyles. They decorated their homes with flowers, and they most importantly put flowers in their hair and flowers and jewelry all over their bodies. Not over their bodies, in their hair. They mostly wore it in their hair. So that's how we have all of these portraits of nuns in the 16th and 17th century wearing flower crowns and flower staffs and also they have a lot of portraits of them after they died that served as like memorandums and like mementos for like, and proof in their household that, you know, they were able to have people in their household become nuns, because that is like, if you're able to have people in your house who serve God, it just proves your status and how much money you have, and your status was a way of survival. Now, in these staffs, they used flowers. They also use flake flowers. And that's why I have these fake flowers right here. They use birds. I think the Mexican, the Aztec bird was actually a very popular bird in New Spain. I don't know, I'm like paused. I'm actually on live, so if you guys are watching me, you can also watch me on live as well. I'm gonna keep doing this so that I can figure out what the fuck I wanna do. All right, so like I said, threes. I like to work in threes, so I'm actually going to cut 3 delphiniums. So, yeah, another thing that not only did you have to be of highborn society, you also had to be an untarnished indigenous legacy. So once they started creating nunneries that allowed indigenous people, because at first they didn't allow indigenous people, the only people that were allowed to be nuns were Creole, because, you know, they invaded the Indies, so a lot of people in the Indies traveled to New Mexico for other opportunities, mostly gold. It was said that there was a lot of gold in these places, which is like a big reason for Spain and the Spanish emperor to be, you know, obsessed with kind of conquering the New World. And now I don't really want to do that because I don't want the flowers to get messed up. Hold on one second. I'm going to figure out a better way to do this. And no, it's just a little too big. So I'm going to figure out a better way to do this. So how are you all doing this quarantine? All right, this is not really ideal, but what the fuck ever. This is perfect. I just won't design on this side. I'll just design here, and yeah. And I'll keep going. So, okay, I'm gonna make this a little shorter. So these are European bridal holders, not really meant for this kind of design, but like, who cares? We're gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna use this dried filler because they use a lot of dried plants, and not necessarily because like they were being, you know, conscious, environmentally conscious. They were just like kind of, being a floral designer was like, basically you were like a merchant, but you were a merchant in high demand because all of these kind of lords and people of high society wanted to prove their wealth through floral design. And in New Spain, nuns were the only ones with this kind of access to portraits that looked the way they did. Nobody else was getting it. Like, previous to, like, even though they took a lot of these pictures, they took a lot of inspiration from, you know, Christian portraits or Christian, like lords, for lords and Europe and different societies in Europe, they didn't really, I don't know how to keep it. Only had styrofoam. Do we have styrofoam? I just need something to like hold this up. Actually, Eli, can you do me a favor? Can you grab all of that and take it out? That worked. Okay, let me just put. Oh. Hi. Hello. We have some people on here. I'm doing a floral show. Hi. So, this is a lot better. So, I have the shape that I want to go in. Now, I just want to I love these flowers in here. I want to keep that energy. I just want to kind of fill in down here so that I can really get my shape and not use a lot of flowers, you know. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Since we're talking about capitalism and flowers, flowers are really fucking expensive, and they have traditionally been for rich people, even though I think the beauty of heaven belongs to everyone. And the reason why I bring up heavenly beauty is because that's why we use flowers. Flowers reminded us of something holier than our human souls, you know? They're creations that God has bestowed onto us, you know? Also, oxygen and all of the other things that creates flowers. Soil also does really great things for flowers as well. But God is one of like the main reasons why floral design became so huge throughout, even in Greek culture. You know, they used the gods. This was outfits that like the gods would wear, you know. They were dressed in like palm flowers and, you know, so the idea of using flowers within celebratory situations or celebratory occasions, death, this was like a very popular idea. This was, and had been around for a very long time. So these nuns making portraits with, now I want everything. These are not necessarily the colors they would use. These are definitely the colors I would use. But we're just gonna do whatever the fuck I want, right? Okay. So God, nuns. These nuns paid artists throughout New Spain to paint them with head crowns and floral staffs. These paintings were very important because they were not only for the church, they were for guests that would come to their family's house, and they would be able to see that they had a member of their family who served the church and who was of God. They had to prove that they were of God, obviously, because you had colonial Spain saying, you know, if you're not with the shit, well, you don't deserve your house, you don't deserve land, right? You don't deserve, you're an enemy of the state. So when you're an enemy, these are fake flowers. I'm going to use, these are flake flowers. I'm going to use fake flowers because actually flake flowers are used in a lot of these portraits. Who made these flake flowers anyway? Yeah, they had fake flowers in the 1600s. Yeah, they had fake flowers in the 1600s. They had a lot of shit. They even had porn. I don't know if they had porn actually, but I'm pretty sure they had the printing press, so somebody was making it. I feel like, you know, with Asian culture, it's really funny because we have like BCE and AD. I feel like they're gonna have to come up with an acronym for us living in the internet age. Like, this is like who we were before the internet, and this is who we are now. Like, I don't know. It's fucking coming, guys. Mark my words. And when it does, I told you so? I don't know. Anyway, not only did they use fake flowers, they also used a lot of bows. By the way, third thing that you needed to be in order to be a nurse, you have to be of legitimate birth. I'm actually just going to read this down. You have to be a legitimate birth. Your parents had to have a high-born occupation, not a merchant. You also have to enter the covenant freely, which is one of the rules that I guess we still have now today. Whatever. Never prosecuted by the Inquisition. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Inquisition is, it is fucking awful. Look it up. And 7, you have to be down to fast. Anyway, so how much time do I have?
6:08.
It is 6:08. And when did I start?
Like 5:25, probably.
All right, I'm gonna be done soon. I know you don't think so. I know you think I'm lying, but I'm gonna be done soon. So I'm gonna have the fake flowers in the bottom. And I'm also gonna do like kind of the same theme that I had going on before. I can't believe we're still like filming actually. Like, it doesn't seem real. Is this real? Is this really happening? Can you hear me? I am calling out to you. So, I was gonna do like a short commercial break and talk about myself in that short commercial break and say, hi, short commercial break sponsored by Jen. Hi. Don't know where to buy flowers from this Valentine's? Go to the Genise page on Instagram for all of your floral needs. Floral pre-orders will be up. God, I hate myself. Why am I doing this? What is this voice? They will be up tonight at midnight. And I will be getting your orders ready, and it will be featuring a lot of the beautiful flowers that we have here. Thanks. Back to our regular scheduled programming. What the fuck ever. They also use a lot of jewels in these designs. They use jewels in the head crowns, they use jewels in the floral staff in order to represent wealth. So, I don't have jewels or that shit, so I'm gonna use things I got at Michael's for 50% off. Now, you may be wondering, I don't know what you're wondering. Actually, I have no idea if you're thinking or if there's anyone out there. But I will tell you that getting materials can be a pain in the ass. A lot of people ask me how I figure out these designs. And I don't want to say that I wing it. I want to say that I like dream about it and that they come to me in dreams and shit. But a lot of it is just like rules of design. So the 3-rule line shape. If I have the shape that I know that I want, but the line, then the only thing, and I create the line before I do the design. The only thing I have to do is fill it in with the colors I want, also the flowers. If I've already thought about it, then it's pretty smooth sailing. You want to make sure all of your flowers have room to breathe, because you want to make sure you have depth as well. You want to clean up anything you think would take away from your piece of art. And this is how I imagine they did it in the 17th century, as well as how we do it now. I'm gonna fill in some gaps right here. And I'm just gonna keep going. All right, so I'm really liking what I'm doing here. I'm gonna continue this purple up. And add this flower here. Grouping is also something that I like to do. A grouping. And I'm actually gonna add some real flowers now. So these real flowers. Okay, so I hate this pink. I did it. I tried it. It didn't work. Sue me. Fuck off. So now I'm gonna do this thistle. I really like this thistle. So I really like how this thistle's about to come out from the sides. Give that shit some body, like some body-oddy. Not body-oddy, just body. Just kidding. I love you, Megan. I do not agree with the shade that Kyle, the sister, gave you earlier this month. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay, you don't have to. Anyway, so I'm going to take these and kind of fill in the front. These are called Alstroemeria. Sorry, I burp a lot. Kind of like the way Rick does in Rick and Morty. It's kind of weird. But I deal with it. Maybe I'm just gassy. I have a lot of gas inside of me. Maybe I'm just gassy. So I'm talking a little less about like what I wanted to talk about because I'm trying to focus on finishing this up because I'm really thirsty. Oh, speaking of thirst, I'm gonna add a little bit more thistle, some to the back, make them longer. I have the shorter pieces in the front. I didn't cut those. Whoopsie! Ow! I didn't hit myself, don't worry. I really like this thistle. Thistle is one of my favorite flowers to work with. It's just surprising, you know? It's surprising. It's like people are always like, oh my God, is that a flower? And I'm just like, yeah, it is. What about it? No, I'm actually very excited to tell people all about flowers. So if you have any questions, please wait until I'm done to ask me. I'm kidding. Ask me now. Ask me anything you want. Call me now for your free tarot reading. No, I'm kidding. I don't have any tarot cards with me. But I have flowers. Anyway, so these nuns, right? Originally, indigenous women were not allowed to be nuns. They were not allowed to be nuns because a lot of the people who were nuns and who were of high society, who were, people from New Spain and who were citizens of New Spain previously, who had just moved there, said things like, oh, they can't be nuns because, they're not civilized like us. Similar to how they attack black people now. They attacked the indigenous people of New Mexico or Spain. And they said things like they weren't civilized, they didn't understand the culture, they weren't godly. And similarly to what some black people do now, a lot of indigenous people who were lords or people of high society, some black people of high society do now, they said things like, oh, we're not like them, they're poor, we're not. We have Gucci and flowers. Just kidding, Gucci wasn't invented then. But if it was, they would have been wearing it. Like I said, I like to do grouping. Grouping helps people's eye kind of follow through. So with that being said, I'm actually going to put this here. Change my mind, do that all the time. If a florist tells you they don't do it, they lied. And then I'm going to put this piece of grass. You kind of don't want to do this, TBH, because you don't want to make too many holes in the floral foam and ruin your piece. But I'm kind of putting them back into holes that were already established. So let's just have a little bit of faith, because of God. Sorry, I can't go that way. I have to go this way. Sorry I'm bringing up religion so much. I just think it's really funny. A bunch of the same concepts that were used to enslave and oppress people in the 15th, 16th, and whatever centuries are used now. Things like God. And I always like to talk about history as if I'm explaining it. Well, I always like to talk about history, first of all. But if I'm talking about history and flowers, I like to talk about it as if I'm explaining the things that we don't talk about. So, or the things that wasn't written in history. So when I looked at these portraits, these Catholic, New Spain, not Catholic, these nun portraits of the 16th century, 16th, 17th century, one thing that I noticed particularly is that they were all white. Even though these indigenous women were creating a name for themselves within the church and becoming nuns from high society, their portraits were not of Aztec women, they were just of white people. And because of that, we don't really see the Mesoamerican indigenous influence in those portraits. You have to look really close. And one thing I noticed was the overexertion of flowers and of Christianity, like crosses that they would put inside of the arrangements. to like emphasize the fact that this was not something that they used to show like power or wealth, but this was something that they used to honor God. False. I mean, they said it, so whatever, but just letting you know they lied. It was like more proof than anything. I'm actually gonna put this here as well. Add another flake flower, and I'm gonna put this more center. Now we have like different depth flowers there, and I'm just gonna, basically I'm kind of like where I wanna be with this piece. I'm gonna move this here and add in some stuff right here. I'm gonna add in a bow, and then I'm pretty much gonna be done. Right now I'm gonna add in these lithianthias. I like adding lithianthias into design because they are a cheaper form of roses. They're like the roses, they're of the same classification, they're of the same family, they're just fucking cheaper, alright? And they're smaller, but they're so pretty, like you can see it. I don't know, I see the relation. They could be sisters, they could be cousins. They could be like sister cousins. I'm fucking stupid, don't mind me. Ooh, I like this. I'm just gonna stick that out there. Actually, I'm gonna take one of these, kind of enforce it a little bit, and then stick it to the man. And I want to make sure this is like a lavish kind of piece. I'm trying to represent Meso-American culture within this kind of New Spain dimension. So what made these pieces Meso-American was not only like the women who like, well, what made these pieces have Meso-American influences was a lot of birds that they use, and and just the simple fact that they use flowers, because the European empires weren't the only people who used flowers in order to represent wealth or tradition or ritual. The Aztecs, you can see of their paintings that they have flower crowns on top of their heads, and they look like big Gerber daisies to me. You know, and who's to say if they were real or fake? But, like, they were definitely flowers. You know, and I think that's just crazy. We've always loved flowers. Like, the Greeks loved flowers. The Romans used flowers. Like, there's something impressive about using nature in order to corrupt an organization, and corrupt the society, excuse me. And I think we should be paying attention to that, you know? Even with my design here, I'm using floral foam, but since I'm decorating it with flowers, like a lot of people who aren't florists, like don't even care that, you know, I'm using like that, don't even care that they're using floral foam, and they just want something pretty. They just want something that'll last, you know? They don't care about the damage that it does to like the ecosystem. They just want something that, you know, will make them look rich. And something like this, I don't know, I feel pretty rich. But I am rich in love and anti-capitalism, in anti-capitalism in thought and ideology, because I'm still a part of this society and I'm still surviving, like many of the Aztec lords who gave themselves up to colonial rule and decided to bring small bits of their culture into the New Spain culture. And they did this with portraits such as this. Now, I'm going to kind of add some flowers into the sides here. So you can see how full this piece would look. Just give you an idea. I'm not gonna add too much because, like I said, these are expensive and I actually use flowers like this for orders, which you can order this weekend or something. I don't know, whenever I put it up. I'm probably gonna put it up today or something like that. I don't know. It's been a really hard year. Gonna add a bow because I fucking love bows. No, I'm just kidding. No, they use a lot of bows and ribbons as well in this. It's just like to show anything to show a grand presentation. So bows, jewels, quees-tailed birds were used in a lot of arrangements, and that's really important because the quees-tailed birds were very famous in Aztec representation of gods, and many people in the empire, they were depicted with kutel feathers as their crowns along with flowers. So sorry, I'm in the way. These are scabiosas. I love scabiosa kind of because it's proof that flowers influence all parts of our lives, even Harry Potter. For those of you Harry Potter nerds out there, you know that there's a spell called scabiosa. Anyway, keep going, keep going. So if Jen was a floral designer in the 17th century, she would have been hanged. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I would have survived, I don't know. But I would have definitely made some cool ass shit. These flowers too. I'm actually gonna use these as well. I wanna. Oh my God, Corona! I hope you all are wearing masks. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you all are not traveling and spreading the virus. Actually, this makes it look like fucking Christian shit. Like it looks like Easter with this. Like I don't like that. I just cut this for no reason because I'm not going to use it. Whatever. I'm going to use these though because... No, that makes it look like fucking Easter too. Okay. I mean, like, that's appropriate, but like, Easter's like one of my least favorite holidays. I grew up like in a very religious household. So Easter was always a holiday that I had to like sit down for a very long time and watch people enter the Holy Ghost and be terrified as shit. I remember one time my mom caught the Holy Ghost. It was really embarrassing for me. It's just like, what are you doing? Please stop. You're scaring me. Another time, the pastor accused my sister of being like possessed. And he brought her up in front of the whole congregation and like did a prayer to expel the devil from her soul. And I was just like looking at my parents like, I told you so. Yeah. So this is perfect, and I'm done. Thank you for tuning in to the Floral programming. I hope you enjoyed watching me do this expensive design that would cost a lot of money in the 16th century and only belongs to high-born societies. But now that we've come a long way so that we can pretend that we are of high-born society and buy flowers, you can buy things like this too. What else do I want to say? Everything that I make, I try and make it affordable. I try and use flowers that are commonly used so that I can give it to people and they can all buy flowers. I hope that I can serve as many people as possible, and I want you guys to know if there's ever a price that's too high, talk to me and we can work it out, because I believe that things like this, beauty from God or whatever, doesn't only belong into the hands of rich, high-born people. It belongs to everyone. It was created on earth that belongs to everyone. Okay, that's it. Goodbye. I'm done. Okay, how was that?